Welcome to Clearing the Clutter Inside and Out with Julie Coraccio. Every Tuesday at 1 p.m., Julie interviews experts on all areas of clutter: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Learn easy to implement tips on how to release clutter and get organized to create the life you choose, deserve, and desire. An award-winning professional organizer and coach, Julie also shares suggestions to help you live clutter-free for a more joyful and fulfilling life. Frustrated by clutter and ready to let it go? Need some easy to implement steps? Taken that first step but need a little more guidance? Our affordable PDF workbooks, 10-minute decluttering and eco-organizing 101 support you in letting go of clutter and getting organized. Check back, as we are always adding items that clients and consumers request. Learn more at reawakenyourbrilliance.com.
Hey everyone, today I'm going to talk about common mistakes people make when releasing clutter and getting organized. Probably the most common mistake I've seen is an unrealistic expectation of time. I've had clients who watch TV shows and think that it'll take a lot less time than what they see on TV. Not so, it takes time. Hoarders is a great example. People say, in an hour with commercials, they got that whole house clean. And what they don't see is the 2 weeks beforehand with a team of people helping them let go of clutter. Especially if you've never cleared clutter, or it's been a while, you might have years of stuff you've accumulated. Rome wasn't built in a day, and the empire certainly didn't get destroyed in a day. It won't get taken care of overnight, even if you hire someone. I'd also say that, depending on where you are, it might be difficult, and that will slow you down. It's been my experience, the more people release clutter, the easier it becomes. My first ever professional organizing client was a whole home decluttering and organization process, and she was great. She's one of my favorite clients ever, and we're still in touch today. But when we started, it was very difficult for her to release anything. But as we kept going, it became easier for her. And I would get these emails in between sessions. Oh my gosh, I let go of this today. So don't get discouraged if at the beginning you're being challenged on releasing things. Know that it's a process and allow yourself that time. I wish I could give you an estimate or something to go by, but since everyone is unique and his or her situations are unique, there's really no measuring stick. The first couple hours you do something, or if you're working on an area or a room, it's going to give you a better idea. And again, the more you do it, I found the easier it becomes. Another mistake people make is not tackling at a good time, especially if this process is difficult for you. Do it at a time when you have your highest energy to reduce stress, and address when you're clear-headed and have the energy to take the time to do it right. I'm not a morning person, so I wouldn't do any decluttering or organizing bright and early. Not being in the right frame of mind. You usually want to make major decisions when you are clear and can focus, not under pressure or after a major distraction, such as an illness. Organizing and releasing clutter is all about making decisions, so you want to be in the best frame of mind when tackling. Don't start the process if you're under a lot of stress. Now, that can turn into procrastination and avoidance, but that's not the subject for today. You wouldn't want to start this process the day after you had a baby, but maybe after a few minutes when you've adjusted, you might be ready to tackle. Sometimes we try to do too much at once. I'm about finished with a book. It is going to be a year-long course, workbook on how to declutter in all areas of your life. And a book is a pretty big thing to write. And if I thought about the whole process, I would have never started it. I would have been much too overwhelmed, and it might have made me afraid, stuck, and I would have stopped. And sometimes this is what happens with people. They're like, okay, I'm going to tackle the whole house, get overwhelmed, and quit. Make everything manageable and chunk it down. If it takes you a few months to do one room or one bookcase, that's okay. Just keep moving forward. Sometimes people purge without thinking it through. Have you ever gotten so fed up with something and declare you're done and hastily do something as a result? Sometimes people ruthlessly go through stuff, but they haven't sorted and they don't know what they've tossed. Or in a moment of frustration, they toss something they will later regret. Once when I was living in Los Angeles, I had to hastily leave an apartment. I tossed a bunch of my own journals. That is, in my entire life, the only thing that I have regretted tossing. I'm a writer. I love to write journals. Now, the truth of the matter is it might be a blessing in disguise because I talk a lot about living in the present, not being in the past. And so I still have some journals. I haven't looked at them at much. So I try to, again, that was the thing that was meant to happen. But I did regret it for a long time, and I wouldn't want to see anyone toss something that they regretted. So if you're just having a moment and really frustrated, try to take a deep breath and make sure you consciously purge items. Just don't go crazy and try to throw away everything at once. Another thing I've seen people do is adopt tips from others or magazines or books instead of working with their natural habits and traits. If it works for Martha Stewart, it doesn't mean that it will work for you. It's very important to take into account your lifestyle and habits. I had a client that loved Martha, but it was unrealistic for her to do things the way Martha did, partly because she had a part-time business and was homeschooling. You'll want to take into consideration your lifestyle, such as pets, kids, do you homeschool, how often you have people over, things of that nature. That's one of the reasons people hire professional organizers, because it's an unbiased, objective view that can help you see something about yourself that you might not be able to see. So again, just because you get it from a book or magazine doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to work for you. I once went to a networking event and I met a woman, and when she found out I was a professional organizer, the first thing she said was, "Only touch every paper once." That is a great motto to try and live by, but don't be too rigid about any rules that you set up. Life happens, and sometimes it's unrealistic, and you have to touch a paper more than once. Here's an example. I have said in other shows, and I've told clients, have only one calendar, and a lot of professional organizers would agree with me with that. However, it doesn't apply to every single person out there. I'm a prime example. I keep 2 huge whiteboards in my office and also have a traveling calendar, so when I'm out seeing clients, I can write in appointments. This works for me, but I have a system in place so that nothing falls through the cracks. If you're just getting started organizing or decluttering, I'm going to really encourage you to stick with one calendar. But again, these are rules to go by. Don't feel so stuck and rigid in every rules when you're letting go of things. If you know what is important and what your priorities are, it's going to be a lot easier for you to release stuff. If you haven't figured out what your priorities are, you might release something that's important. So this is something I'm going to want to encourage you to take the time to do. Now, if you don't have great decision-making skills, and I used to be one of those, my nickname in college was Indecisive One, you can learn how to have better decision-making and learn how to prioritize. I also see a lot of people get hung up on they think they might need it someday. I've sometimes asked clients how long they've had something. 10 years. And I ask if they've ever used it. No. And they're afraid that they might need it in the future. What I suggest is to trust you'll get what you need when you need it. Now that's taking a leap of faith, but I think it's a really important one, because otherwise you could have a ton of stuff and never be able to let anything go for the belief that you would need it at some point in your life. Some common mistakes people also make are when dealing with sentimental items. Know that if you have a lot of things that are very sentimental, that it's going to take time to go through. And again, if everything is sentimental, then nothing can have value. If you're going to release some things, remember you can take pictures. There are ways to digitize so you have a memory that you can keep on your tablet or on your computer. Also, if we're clear on our priorities, it makes it a lot easier to release things. And I'd encourage you, are you showing proper honor and respect to things that you consider very sentimental? People will say to me, oh, well, it's really important. It was in my parents, but it's been sitting boxed up in a garage for 10 years. So there's an opportunity for you to dig a little deeper and see what you can release. I've also seen people move stuff around. Maybe they move it from one room to the other, or they do a lot of shuffling, but not really doing anything. Again, this is a great opportunity. I always encourage people to dig deeper if they're able. Why are you shuffling? Why are you just moving around but not doing anything? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you afraid? Is it because you cannot make a decision? Or are you avoiding something? Look at this as a gift and something that you can learn about yourself. Another mistake I see people make is not measuring. They go out and buy containers without measuring and knowing what and how much they're going to store. I've learned from my husband to measure twice and cut once. I once had a potential client call me up and she wanted to hire me. Her first item of business was for me to just go out and buy a bunch of containers without having seen her place. This is going to probably cost you a lot of unused containers, or at least a trip back to the store to return everything. So take the time to measure and do it right. You'll want to measure what you're storing, for instance, CDs in a basket, and where the basket is going to go. Measure if it's going to be stored on a bookcase or in a deeper shelf. I'm also a big fan of repurposing, and you might have containers around the home that you use. A lot of times we get clear plastic bags for shower curtains and for bedding. I have used bedding containers to store a change of clothes and an emergency bag that I keep in my car. I've used little shower containers to keep extra computer cords. They're clear, you can write with a Sharpie and see everything that you have. Finally, the last mistake I've seen people make is not asking for help when you need it. We all have our skills and strengths. If decluttering and getting organized aren't yours, considering asking a friend or seeking professional support. I hope these tips have helped you, so if you're getting ready to declutter and get organized, you'll see some common mistakes and be able to stop it before it starts. All right, everyone, go out, clear some clutter to create the life you choose, deserve, and desire.
Frustrated by clutter and ready to let it go? Need some easy to implement steps? Taken that first step but need a little more guidance? Our affordable PDF workbooks, 10-minute decluttering and eco-organizing 101 support you in letting go of clutter and getting organized. Check back, as we are always adding items that clients and consumers request. Learn more at reawakenyourbrilliance.com. Thanks for tuning in to Clearing the Clutter Inside and Out. Sign up for our newsletter and receive a free copy of 10 clutter-free living tips. Ready to create the life you choose, deserve, and desire? Learn about Julie's coaching, ebooks, online monthly decluttering classes, how to organize your life, office hours, and her unique clutter-free living mastermind at reawakenyourbrilliance.com. You can also watch all episodes on YouTube or download on iTunes and more. Join us next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step.